Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Neil, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, how are things?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good to have you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We left a couple of housekeeping questions out from yesterday, and we did do the majority of them to keep our hand in, as the saying goes. So I'm going to do a couple that we didn't do. So, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, because that would require a dynamo on the bike to work opposite from what they say, because they're claiming a reverse dynamo. Actually, that's more of a debunk of it. So, there's no evidence of it, sorry.
I never got that bit, reverse dynamo. I remember Anthony Riley saying that, right? And I boiled it down to self-perpetuating. But when you say reverse dynamo, dynamo is the perpetuating bit, and the fact that it's self-perpetuating to put itself beyond the restraints of the Curie point. It gets a bit complex, doesn't it? But what do you mean by reverse dynamo? How does that fit in?
You remember the dynamos that used to be on bikes? The younger people may not remember these, but we used to have dynamos on a bike. And the whole point of the dynamo was that it had a magnetic field within it. And when you pushed the wheel next to the wheel of your bike and the wheel of your bike moved, that created the magnetic field created an electric current, and that moved the electric current, and that lit up the light on the bike. So that's magnetism creating an electric field. Then you're moving the electric field, which does create another magnetic field. But the point is that it then powers the bike, well, because you're moving the electric charge that's created by the magnetic field. But what they're claiming is a magnetic field that's created by an electric charge. But that's not how it works. The only place I know of in history where, now I'm an electrician, John refracted and know a lot better, but I have never heard of electricity just being there and creating a magnetic field, just sitting there. Do you know what I mean? They're claiming, I don't even think they're even claiming a moving magnetic field or electric field, which would create a magnetic field. But they're starting off with the electric. You have to start with the magnetic, not the electric, to create the electric. So they're starting with electric, whereas in reality, we start with magnetic, if you understand what I mean.
I understand what your explanation means. It's just reverse dynamo doesn't make sense beyond the fact that it's kind of giving it a title that infers a bit of, it's just generating of current by anything. That's how all electricity is basically made, isn't it? But the fact that you're generating it with a bike and you say reverse dynamo, it just means that you've got a lead in to explain what you've just explained in terms of their half-assed explanation that already starts with a magnetic field. Because what can we lean on in that regard? Well, what have we actually got? Well, we do have a field that we can show. We use it with our compasses and prove flat Earth with it all the time. But beyond that, that's the only basis to start that La Land journey. So that's the only thing they start with, isn't it?
Well, no, they don't start with a magnetic field. They start with electricity. Right? Now, where we garner electricity from in the real world, if you want to create an electric charge, you need a magnetic field in the real world. But they're starting with an electric charge that creates a magnetic field. Now, you can create a magnetic field with a moving electric charge, but you need a magnetic field in the first place. That would be electromagnetism. but you need a magnetic field in the first place to create the electric charge. They're just starting with electric charge.
But I do like the story of Thea, though. I know it's just a story, but it has essentially become part of the heliocentric, timeline, because there's no other way of. I want to say no other. There is lots of others, but that's the way they've decided is the best way to explain why the molten iron core is as big as it is and hasn't cooled down over the time period that they must enforce with their heliocentric worldview and, Big Bang theories based on distances derived from flat plane measurements. All of that has a certain timeline that they have to fit within. And the core doesn't. It should have cooled down a long time ago. And you end up with this necessity of Thea smashing into Earth and depositing its core, the remnants of which is a quite handy load of old garbage that's left in orbit around that blob of, I don't know, Cadbury's cream egg, and becomes the moon, the debris that is, but conveniently giving us a much bigger molten iron core, right? Well, that, like I say, is just quite a nice, fantastical story to talk about when you come to the molten iron core in its story. But from my own impressions, the backstory you've given it, which I'm sure is accurate and a good debunking, don't they just call it the magnetic core in that regard? Isn't it just always just been ascribed to being the reason we've got the fields that we can follow on a flat Earth with a compass?
Well, but anything. See, the thing about it is when you're talking about Thea or anything else, you're actually going. That's like talking about our curve after you've ignored there is no radius. Do you know what I mean? Let's talk about our curve and the our curve calculator. Yet no one has produced a radius measurement. It's because you're looking past that they are claiming there's an electric charge that then starts moving and creates an electric field. But in reality, we need a magnetic field to first create the electric charge. It starts with a magnetic field. You know what I mean? You need a magnetic field to create an electric charge, and a moving electric charge creates an electromagnetic field. But to have the electric charge in the first place, you need a magnetic field. They're just starting with electric charge. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that doesn't work. It's like gas pressure without a container. It's like completely opposite of, it's like they're trolling you. That's the best way. It's like they're trolling electrical engineers or something.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if it's one of those things that would be glaring to someone with talking of being glaring, I got a flat Earth debunking into one of my actual subscription feeds, which I never like when that happens. It's normally a quick fire way of getting unsubscribed from if it's me that's being fed it, right? Because it's going to be in the negative 99 times out of 100. Well, 99 times out of 100 means there must be one time in 100 that someone does a flat Earth response video where they're not on your side, therefore it's automatically going to be positive, or there's going to be ambiguity at best that you're going to critique. They're definitely a glober, but they're critiquing flat Earth, and they're not that 99 times out of 100. They resort to ad homs and all that sort of stuff. Well, I got one of those in my subscriptions feed from a guy who makes videos about hi-fi. There's not very many times that I've managed to link a subject that maybe twice I've managed to link flat Earth to hi-fi. Yeah, whereas this guy managed it and did a flat Earth response of why the Earth isn't flat when he assumes are. Yeah. So out of the video, the only response I would have is to point out that where he's assuming are, it's actually measured off a flat Earth with either the Al-Biruni example or the minimum elevation angle to Polaris, right? That's all I really need to do when all of the maths he did was based on the presupposition of an R value that he hasn't had measured by any other means than a flat Earth. So I took that, but sort of brushed over the fact that he had done some quite complex dancing with maths that I didn't pay enough attention to because it didn't intrigue me enough to pay attention beyond the assumption of the R value. In other words, I lost interest quickly, right? But with that in mind, I passed it on to Adam, and I'm like, have a look at this. This may be more appealing to you than me because he's dealing with complex conversion maths into oblate spheroids using R. Have a look and tell me what you think. And his response, Adam's response, was, well, so biggie it's flatty. Is that all he's really doing? I'm like, well, yeah. But, my comments were all in regards to your assumptions of R, which is where I tend to take these things. But I'm hoping we can cover that because it more than the content or his crappy argument with an assumption of R, which isn't going to be the focus, just the way he approached the subject was I don't want to say breathtaking, but certainly a breath of fresh air. In terms of he being that 1 in 100 that doesn't approach it from, you're just all thick, scientists have already figured this out for us, let me regurgitate some of it for you. He didn't quite do that. You know, the only place he put a foot wrong was in the presuppositional R value that almost everybody who's got a predisposition to being on a sphere wouldn't spot, because why wouldn't you automatically assume we're measuring with sphere values? We're on a sphere. So again, without faulting him for that part of everything, begging the question of our values, it was an exceptionally good attempt, and I want to go through it when we've got Adam's full attention, just so that there's not things that I miss in the maths because it's perhaps above my grade. I'll even say it's above my pay grade before we get to it. Like I say, because of at the point I lost interest. It may not be, but you know what I'm saying. Adam's going to be better served to critique someone that's doing more complex maths, and me just watching a 6-minute video and then going, "Look, he assumes R." Go on, whoever that is.
You underestimate yourself. That bothers me a lot. Why you gotta wait for Adam?
What do you mean?
Well, Adam is better than me and Nathan at maths, so
Yeah, that's it.
that'd be the reason. So is Mitchell. Mitchell is excellent at maths.
Oh, I didn't hear the math. I'm sorry. I'm driving. I didn't hear that part. It's about mathematics. Okay. Gotcha.
Oh, well, now I'm offended.
Well, the thing about it is what this guy, I saw that video, you posted it, I watched it. He comes across as an intelligent guy who just is under the impression that there is an R value measurement, kind of like refracted curvature. He doesn't realize there isn't.
Oh, did you watch
That's
it?
the thing about the world. I did, yeah. He's obviously intelligent. You know what I mean? He obviously knows what he's talking about, especially when it comes to sound and that. Like, but it's like a lot of people in the world. There's plenty of intelligent people in the world, but they've been given the impression that there is a measurement of the R value and a measurement of R curve, and you know what I mean? Everyone knows it's a globe. It's like, no, they don't. Everyone pre-assumes it's a globe because they were given the impression that it was a globe. They don't realize that they're pre-assuming this measurement. You know, like refractive. When refractive found out there was no measurement, he said himself, he got a sick stomach. He knew it's over. You know what I mean? So maybe he's one of those guys, like refracted. Or he might turn into a funny, you wouldn't know, anti-flat earther.
I really like that guy because of his approach to hi-fi. I know we're on a live show and this should be still in housekeeping, maybe on Molten course or something. But the reason I like him is because he's a pro audio guy who likes hi-fi. So he's got in his front room the same brand of speakers that I've got. He's got B&W, just a slightly bigger pair than I've got. Nicer. But anyway, the point is that he's obviously into audiophile stuff, but knows where all the snake oil is. Now, but for the fact that I run a show, I would have never entered into that particular arena either. Now, I even trained in that arena, but as soon as you leave an arena, things move on really quickly. 20 years later, I haven't got a clue about pro audio. But then you start buying mic preamps and XLR mics and things of that nature, and suddenly your feed in YouTube is full of all the pro audio stuff, where they show you what is actually snake oil that you didn't realise because you don't know what you don't know, in terms of what's snake oil in hi-fi. Now, that particular guy, because he's a bit more empathetic to your average audiophile, he doesn't sugarcoat the "this is snake oil" approach. He does just tell you, but he doesn't do it in a way that, in the same way I'm praising him for not being the 99 out of 100 when it comes to responses to Flat Earth. He takes that sort of approach when he's appealing to audiophiles to say, maybe you don't necessarily want to spend £1,000 on this bit of wire. You know what I mean? He's one of those. He's a good guy.
He's saving people money and trouble.
Yeah. Very good. I like that guy. So I'm glad that when I saw him do a flat Earth, my heart sank when I saw him do a Flat Earth video, because there's so many YouTubers I've unsubscribed from that I really did like, because they've become a dick when it comes to Flat Earth. They've Flat Earth subject. They've immediately reverted to ad homs, personal attacks, stereotyping fallacies, baseless assertions, claiming proof that has no evidence for their assertion in terms of sphere, rebuttals that don't address any of the actual arguments that we as what we would consider cutting-edge flat earthers put forth. You know, nothing but an address to the feast of nonsense, and wrapped up in some mocking tone. You're like, okay, that's your true colours coming out when something that you believe in is challenged, flat earth in this instance versus globe earth in their belief. You see someone's true colours. And in this case, to see that guy being absolutely consistent with how he approaches things getting it wrong because he's assumed R. And I went, as I told him in his comments, and I spent about an hour in his comments responding to his other viewers. Terrible, really. But I'm quite looking forward to covering that, like I say, with Adam. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be good when Adam is there, because no point without Adam or Mitchell, someone who can do the maths. Do you know what I mean?
Is Mitchell's
very good at maths. Mitchell's excellent at maths. Yeah.
Are you sure?
He's corrected Adam in the past.
The Australian guy?
Mitchell's excellent at maths. Yeah.
Really?
Very good. Yeah. He even corrected Adam on something he was wrong about.
Right, over the top. I'm trying to egg on the over the top racism. I just couldn't quite get there without you, definitely taking it that I automatically assume he's a dumb Australian. That was where I was taking that. You just didn't want to play along. I know he's good at maths. I know Mitchell very well.
I was like, I wonder what they meant by the Australian guy. It's like, yeah, Mitchell. I mean, the Australian guy, you know him.
Well, that was another joke I was trying to lead you on. The channel's called Mitchell from Australia. But that was another joke that I thought you'd play along with. You just didn't. It's all right. Don't worry.
I wasn't reading the room at all.
It's fine. It's fine.
There was a couple of videos I watched in the past few days. One of them was this rocket that went up claimed to be 65 miles.
Yeah,
right?
watch that.
And I debunked it. Now, there was some nonsense in there, comments about, that's the end of flat earthers, all this nonsense. And it was total rubbish. The whole of the United States, I just used globe maps to debunk it. And there was a couple of people, but one particular person was very unhappy. He did his best to try and get around it. But they're not claiming that the United States has taken up the whole one side of a globe. I said they are. That's what they're trying to show, because they're frauds. They had the whole of the United States taken up, and not even the whole of the United States, and taken up a whole one side of the globe. Do you know what I mean? It was complete and utter rubbish. It was obvious fraud. Do you know what I mean? And I just used some globe maps to debunk it. And this guy was unhappy to the max. And there was other people there, flat earthers, who liked it. But there's another video I watched earlier today, and it's similar. It's this high altitude video. Not a rocket, but a balloon.
Thanks for all these videos. I've actually been watching them.
Oh, right, yeah. But what was good about this one today, it only came out 10 months ago. It was a balloon. It was like 30-something kilometers, 38 kilometers or 39 kilometers. Whatever that is in miles, probably 27 miles or something. Very high. But it was really well done. But what was good was you look into the comments, and the amount of flat earthers in there, it's just like, no rotation. You know what I mean? The curve is only the lens, all this stuff. And it was like every comment had some flat earther in there laughing. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean,
yeah, I noticed
badly.
that. I went into I go into the comment section of that particular video, the second one, the one that was a guy that had launched up a 360 camera. The reason it was a good video, as far as I could tell, because I was like, what's going on here? Because as you rotate your picture around, you can see like below, and I know how a 360 camera works, but I was like, why is it so stable? And then if you look carefully, what you can see is there's like a digital line that scrolls around as the camera's actually spinning. So what it's doing is it's interpreting where the data's supposed to be and rotating the image as the whatever it is, gimbal or wherever the camera's placed in, is also rotating about its own axis. And then it's really weird, because when you move the camera down, you can literally see the payload spinning around while you've got a stable view of the outside, because it's obviously a really clever 360 camera program that's allowing you to keep the image stable as the camera moves, right? So everything that you're looking at, but you just get this rotating, instead of a rotating image, you just get this, like I say, this digital line that every, I don't know, second or two just goes past and sweeps past the screen. So, but as you're looking around, even though it's slightly disorientating to see the payload spinning if you've got that in view, you get a really stable image of the world from that altitude. I was very, very impressed with that, just from a technological point of view, in terms of getting that sort of image stabilization, where I can just hold the camera straight, and if I get it in a certain position, I got it to mess up once as well, where it didn't seem to work, or it was on the film. I don't know which one it would be at a glance. But at one point I got it so that it stopped that line going around, and suddenly the camera is actually spinning, and you're like, whoa, getting dizzy. It's actually whirling around with the payload. You know what I mean? So in other words, if you move the camera down, the payload would be stationary. It was really bizarre, but clever stuff to make it look that clean. Would you not agree? It looked really clean.
Excellent. I was like, wow, this is really good. This is brilliant. Like, I didn't even realize when I moved my phone, I was going to be able to see, move the camera, move my camera view. And I started moving my phone, and by accident, I went, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And I could move it around 360 degrees and see all around. It was excellent. I mean, hats off to them. I don't care if they're robots. They did an excellent job.
Yeah,
but
back to the point you were making originally. Sorry to hark on about how great their technology was, which it was. The comment section, as soon as I scrolled down, I was like, what? Why is this? There's loads of them. There's flat earther after flat earther after flat earther laughing their head off, pointing out that there's no drift. And given that I did, because I happened to just stick it on, I didn't know what it was when I pressed the link that you shared. And I'm strolling around and it's just air noises, and I'm glancing back going, oh, okay, this is what it is. And then I had a look around on the 360 view. I was familiar with it. Obviously you weren't. But yeah, as I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this is just really, really quality footage. Let's have a look at the comments. What's everyone else saying? And it did occur to me, yeah, it's when you can see that it's so stable, you can see that you're not moving along a lick as the ground turns underneath you. You know what I mean? The ground's complete. There's going to be the same place, and then he collects it at the end from the exact.
And he gives the timeline.
Yeah, he collects it. So in other words, it's gone up, and then come back down in the exact same spot, and he's just picked it up and walked off with it.
Yeah, and even if he didn't collect it exactly where he left it off from, he knew where it was because it has probably GPS on it, and I know if I did the maths, there would be nothing in globe related that could be attached to it, because the thing about it is that you get a timeline at what altitude it was at what time in the video. Do you know what I mean? And at what time it was that by the time it got to that altitude. So, I mean, you're getting timestamps of actual time. I think it was a 3-hour video. So 3 hours, the thing was up. Maybe not 3 hours, it was up at the total highest altitude, but it was at the, I'm Belgian, at the highest altitude for a good while, probably about 27 miles, which is quite high, and no movement. It was brilliant. It's just like no movement. High def globe debunk, you know.
Yeah, it's really good. Both those videos. Yeah, you've been sharing some good stuff, Brian. Hello, Chocolate.
Thank you.
Morning, guys.
Chocolate.
Okay, well, we got one housekeeping question. We'll save gas pressure for tomorrow. In the meantime, we've got a few clips that have been shared by Vlad. Now, I don't know if they've come out of the clip section, but we'll play them as is. I think they're only relatively short. Are you around? Is he in the live stream chat?
Yes, sir.
Oh, is it
What's
you,
up,
Mush?
Nathan? Yes.
Okay. Just if you can pipe up, because for some reason it's where you trimmed them out as nice clips. I've got them, but they've gone into the actual video itself, which is handy because it means I can tell you to go and like.
So what do we want to do?
Tell me when the clip or the natural end that you wanted us to cover comes to an end. If you don't say anything, I will just end up playing through the whole video because it has started at the right timestamp, but because it's gone to the video, it just carries on playing. So I just want you to pipe up and say that's enough for that, and then I'll move on to the next clip, which I have got timestamped. So the first one starts at 28 seconds, then the second one starts at 1 minute 28 seconds, and then the third one starts.
So in other words,
3 minute 45.
In other words, just to let you know when it ends.
Yeah.
Right,
so if it's only like 20 seconds, just say, "Oh, that'll do."
All right. Yep.
Okay. So as I've just done, I've put his link in the live stream chat. So this videographer is called. It's just right mess on my screen. Is called Michael Sartain. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. That's the guy. You know your man that Piri did a few treatments on recently. Know that guy who does all the bad logical fallacies. The guy with the problem with you, Nathan.
This guy's
Remember
got a problem with. Hold on a second. This guy's got a problem with me.
Guy. No, I'm sure this guy does have, but this other guy who's a flat earther who I can't remember his name now. His other names are escaping me, but Piri was doing a treatment on him there recently before the Bob, the science guy, and Peterson one. He was doing it. And this guy is a flat earther and he's got a problem with you. But this guy constantly attacks this Michael Sartain guy, saying that this guy is as thick as your man Josh. They was on the debate with you. So this Sartain guy is.
I'm still a bit
British
confused. Who's got a problem with me?
This guy. What's the guy's name?
Not
He
this
does all
guy.
videos,
Stop. Because otherwise we'll go
logical
around circle three.
fallacies.
Is this guy Michael Sartain, the guy whose link I'm sharing? Does this guy specifically have an issue with me?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, fine.
But that's not the guy.
That's what I was asking. That's all I was asking
about.
That's all I was asking.
I don't think he mentioned your name, no.
No, fine. I was going to say, the guy looks like he could absolutely... It's a bit like when you deal with Joe Rogan. Like, if I meet him face to face, I'd be like, no hard feelings, please don't kill me. You know what I mean? He looks like he'd definitely kick my ass.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's right. He needs to be told when he's wrong.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Like.
I'm just
Looks don't mean anything.
Most of the time, like, I'm just saying, with Dell, right? Dell was like, you wouldn't be saying that face to face. Yeah, I would, Dell. Yeah, I definitely would. However, when it's someone like this or Joe Rogan who could probably kill you, you do take a slightly different attitude to a certain extent. I mean, this guy might not be super fit. He just looks like he could kick my ass.
I don't know. Dell looks pretty intimidating to me, too.
Dell does? Really?
Yeah, that looks like he could be pretty dangerous. He looks pretty strong now and aggressive.
Yeah, it looks like a dangerous individual, Dell. I wouldn't want to mess with him.
Shout out to Michael Jones. He just says, mind shock. Super chat.
That's it. Mind shock. Thank you, Michael Jones. Mind shock. That's the guy. Mind shock is a big problem with you, but mind shock kept on taking the piss out of this Michael Sartain guy while he was doing his treatment of your debate with your man Josh and the other guy, Dennis, whatever his name is, when you were with Patrick Gunnels. This guy, he kept bringing up this Michael Sartain guy, pointing out that this guy is really stupid. So let's see.
I see. So you're saying, just so I'm finally clear, Mindshock made reference to this guy as being the dumb equivalent of the Josh guy when he was critiquing that video, correct?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
He said he didn't know which one of the two were stupid.
Oh, I see. Well, let's see. So let us know when I need to end mush.
So first one is 47 seconds.
Okay, perfect.
Guys who I went on with, it was fine. I did 20 hours of study before that episode because I wanted
to proving this Earth is a circle.
Well, no, it wasn't that. I wanted to quote every one of their bullshit arguments before they quoted them to me, and have a counter for all of them because I can't.
That sounds very reasonable. Okay. That sounds good.
Right now, I know flat Earth arguments better than most. Not all. Right. I'm not better than like Jaron and.
I don't know this guy. Is that true?
No, I'd say it's just nobody's talking about him. I know he doesn't have a clue about what he's talking about.
He knows feast of nonsense better. That's what he's talking about because you just mentioned Jaron.
No, he said he doesn't even know better than Jaron. I can guarantee you this guy has not a clue what he's talking about.
I'm sorry, but just being able to quote an argument doesn't mean you understand the argument.
Yeah, okay. And I can guarantee you he doesn't understand his own paradigm, the one he's supposed to be supporting. Don't worry about it. He's going to be a train wreck.
And Flat Earth Dave. But most flat earthers cannot quote flat earth dogma better than I can. Mm-hmm. The whole 8 inches per square mile or some bullshit like that. Like,
oh, God.
I don't know.
Let me get it straight.
You can't buy irony like that. You just can't even buy it.
I can quote flat earth arguments really well. That whole 8 inches per mile squared claim the globe makes. What? That's not a flat earth argument. What are you talking about? You mean you vaguely have a rendition of the rebuttals that flat earthers put to the globe claims that you don't know very well? Clearly.
The whole thing, the sun is 3,950 feet above, or 3,950 miles above the Earth. Like things like that are provably untrue, because what does that mean? That means that light travels at 4,000 miles a second.
Before we go down the flat hole rabbit hole,
What is he on about?
What's he on about? Yeah, exactly. Was there more to that? Mush.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Next clip.
20 hours of study. Yep.
Okay.
Can I just say something on that? It's like he knows a load of straw man nonsense that no one actually claims. and he doesn't know his own globe. He thinks that, as he put it, the 8 inches squared per mile is that's your claim, buddy. You don't even know it. He's horrendous.
Hold on, though. Is this guy, based on what you've said about Mindshock's opinion of him, is he just low-hanging fruit? Although he's directly addressing us, so fair game.
This whole flat Earth movement started in 2015. If you look at like the
Did it? What about me? I was
I'm
here
pretty
before
sure-
that. Math Powerland was here long before that. There was a resurgence of it pre 2010. So that dated back to like 2006 and prior, with people like Charles Flat Earth Math, who was arguing the toss about it before any of us even knew the subject existed. But yet, according to you, it started, what, a year after I got here? Although I did get here quite late 2014, to be fair.
occurrences of flat Earth on the internet, it
Go on, Chocolate.
No, I'm just saying, what about Simon Robotham, Lady Jane, all these people. Then there's Samuel Shenton back in the 50s into the 70s, then Charles K. Johnson from the 70s right through to the early 2000s. I mean, like, Charles K. Johnson was on, did it like something like 3,000 interviews or something, and he was on adverts and all kinds of stuff. I mean, like, this didn't start in 2015, Bozo.
He goes in 2015, he goes, pew, it just shoots straight up like a hockey stick. And the reason why, and I know this is the reason, and I can't prove it, but
I know this is the reason. I can't prove it, but I know it's the reason. That is not a good way to start a claim. Really, it really isn't.
you can speculate, but this is what happened.
You don't know, you can't prove it. You do know. Let's speculate together.
Chinese and Russian agents started creating Facebook groups in the United States.
Oh my God.
What?
Really? What about it just being flat? What about that? It's measured that way. What more do you want? No, it was Russian Facebook agents.
In order to find, because they know we're technologically illiterate society, and they did so in order to sow chaos in the U.S.
My God. So what is it that you can't manage to set your alarm clock and use your iPhone properly and download apps, so therefore we are a technologically inferior race? What? I don't think so. Maybe you're just a bit dumb with technology.
A Russian psyop.
Conspiracy
That's what
theory.
he's trying to say. Isn't it?
Hold on, Brian. Say again, Goat.
He's a conspiracy theorist.
Sounds like it. He loves it. I hate it when they project that onto me. I don't mind if you want to take that on your own shoulders. Fine, I'll just laugh at you. But when, like in the AMA, that guy was like, well, then you'd be saying there's no nuclear war. No, I'm not saying that, but that's what you would concern yourself with, given the awful truth that the space that you think is above your head isn't real. It's not a sky vacuum. It's not somewhere you can travel through with rockets. But suddenly I'm saying rockets aren't real, according to them. At least in this instance, he's, with a lot of peppering and disclaimers, making it clear that this is just his opinion. Right? But it's true, because here's what I think.
But not only did they do,
Yeah.
At Nathan, how do you explain flour on your flat Earth model? That was basically the question you were
I saw
getting.
that comment he made. Someone else said something like, if I can't get milk out of this bull, why would buckets exist? Or something like that, which I thought was also quite funny.
Exactly.
that they have these things where they would have like a pro-Islam rally, and it would
Was that the end of that clip?
This one is 58 seconds.
A bit. There's more to this one, or move on to the next.
Yeah, you can move on to the next. Yeah.
physicists build models to predict the future.
Yes, is the one.
Okie dokie. What kind of models do they build? Supermodels? I think it's gonna rain tomorrow.
Know, because of physicists, when eclipses are going to happen. I know when we're going to get to the point where
Is that predicting the future? This is so sad. So if I look at my clock, right, and I write down exactly what happened, I study it, and I get all the patterns down, and then at 11:59 I go, everyone listen, pay attention. You're all listening, everyone? Right. In 1 minute, that hand is going to hit the 12. I can predict the future.
Mind shock wasn't wrong, I tell you. Just
Yeah, it's good for a
crying
laugh,
over
though,
here.
isn't he? This is a good laugh.
Yeah. I mean, a physicist is the one who makes it possible to predict eclipses. Like, no one predicts them. They're part of a cycle. They're around since the Babylonian times and maybe before that. You know what I mean? He doesn't have no concept of history or no correct information in any way. It's like as if he's trolling.
I don't know what
Well,
he's
it
doing.
makes sense why Mindshot goes after him now.
Well,
For
does
the
he? I don't know.
newbies, it's all about the buzzwords, right? It's all about sunsets, eclipses, what else? You know, all the buzzwords they got.
Flower.
Yeah. they don't need to understand these things. They just need to repeat them.
It's all bull milk and buckets, isn't it?
Where Mars and Earth are in phase, so that you can make the 6-month travel there and then back at a certain amount of time, which happens like every, don't quote me on this,
4
2
years,
years, like
4
2 years.
What? You can make the 6-month travel there and back to Mars. What? What is he jabbering about? What the
He
hell
thinks
is he
this is
on
happening.
about? Oh my God. This is embarrassing. Is there any more to this?
2 years and 8
The
months.
last one was
Again?
39 seconds. It's a short one.
Yeah, I think we've had the most.
No, but the point at which they get back to the same point is like 2 years and 8 months or something like that. I could be wrong. Anyway, the point is, how do you model those things out? How do we know that the Earth, the sun goes through rotation every 11 years? Because we can model these things out. Physicists are good at modeling the reality.
Yeah. Okay. Jolly good. Okay. On a more serious note, so this was the extension of yesterday's video. I've already put a link to him. Please let Michael know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with the link that's just gone by. But I'm going to share a different link now, so hence I'm not going to immediately share his link straight after doing it. It has already gone by. Hopefully some of you already left a comment on in that video saying at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Here we go. So this is a different video. So I'm just going to get Brian to do a preamble in a minute, whoever that is. So in a second, Brian's going to give you a preamble of why we're covering this as a follow-on from yesterday's live stream. So we did cover a bit of Michael, I think it was Michael Sartain or whatever his name is, yesterday's after show. If you want to check that out, if you're a member. Oh, and I need to do a little promo. Can someone nudge me before we finish out this live stream? I need to do a little promo to the members about an up-and-coming thing that's happening tomorrow. Anyway, this video, go and let him know, or her know. I don't actually know who this is. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So this is following on from yesterday's garbage that Brian provided. Brian.
Yeah, I don't know who the videographer is, but it's Graham Handcock, that guy, archaeologist guy. He had some documentary on Netflix there in the past 12 months that was very popular. He's on Joe Rogan's. He's speaking about the Piri Reis map. And yesterday's video was based on the Piri Reis map. And the guy was couldn't understand how this map could exist pre-1700s. Because according to the official story, it's impossible for it to exist pre-1700s, because it's impossible for anyone to know what the longitude lines were pre-1700s. You know, because and if you look into a lot of celestial navigation, a lot of stuff's changed in the 1700s. They tried to change it more globe focused, right, in the 1700s. So there was a lot of stuff that wasn't happening prior to that in celestial navigation. So something was going on in the 1700s, and they gave people the impression that maps, like with the longitude lines on them and them kind of things, they couldn't exist anytime prior to the 1700s. But yet the Piri Reis map is, I think, 100 plus years before that. And there's other maps, other old maps that show the longitude lines. And the guy yesterday was making up a lot of nonsense as to how is it even possible for that map to exist? Maybe it must be aliens, anything, some time travelers, whatever he was coming up with. Whereas this is Graham Handcock talking about it in a little bit more of a measured way, but the outcome is actually not much different, or in some ways, so I leave it go.
In a world where we often think we have uncovered all the secrets of the past, a conversation between Joe Rogan and Graham Handcock on the Joe Rogan podcast reveals a fascinating story of ancient seafaring cultures. While archaeology acknowledges the Polynesian expansion as the first great seafaring adventure, Handcock questions the evidence and points to DNA evidence from the Amazon and ancient maps as proof of a global navigating culture in the Ice Age.
I mean, we can debunk that statement straight away, can't we? They're using angles to the stars to create these maps, which are flat. So to infer, as one guest did recently, that this is a spherical coordinate system? No, it definitely is not. It's with respect to a flat plane. Taking angles to the stars off a flat plane.
Yeah, it's not. The latitude and longitude grid is a pure flat two-dimensional flat grid map. Flat grid. It has nothing to do with a sphere. That's where they back engineer the sphere from. The proof of that is the actual angles to Polaris with a marine sextant, where you won't be using a globe's geometric edge to get your correct latitude. You just be using the visible sea horizon. They think the longitude lines couldn't exist prior to 1700s, yet Kepler had to know about the longitude lines to come up with his analemma. To back engineer the original sun cycle into the Copernican model, he needed the longitude lines. So some of their own top boys debunk their own claims often.
The discovery of an old map that shows the world as it looked during the last ice age, incorporating precise relative latitudes and longitudes, is hard to explain. What could this mean?
It means they knew how to measure angles to Polaris. That's it. That's all it means. Unless I'm not giving it its dues, Brian. Up until now...
No, that's all.
Just to preface this, even when I first went and looked at this, which was the very, very first thing I covered with Martin Liedtke, who's now gone to the dark side of mud floods and such like, Antiquitech, etc., etc. But he and I looked into maps. Now, before Flat Earth, Mappy Martin, as he was known, had loads of them. He was really keen on maps. So he recognised the Flat Earth proof within maps pretty quickly. And then we started looking at really old maps, like the Map of Monday, which occasionally flashes up on my reel of videos. So we just went to Hereford, had a look at it, took some photos. Now, in terms of how these maps were laid out between then and now, in terms of the latitude and longitude grid, it had never even crossed my mind as being a concern or a problem. But suddenly when you get into the nitty-gritty of how it proves a flat Earth, then you come across videos like this, thanks Brian, where, how is this going to be explained? It doesn't need to be explained, right? In fact, Brian had to spend some time yesterday explaining why this was even a problem for them.
Was there an...
Sorry, Brian.
Yeah. The problem they have is that there's certain things in reality that you can't look past. You can't mitigate for. It's just things that just do not fit with a spherical belief system. And the latitude and longitude grid is one of those things. And all maps are derived from the latitude and longitude grid, because that grid system existed before XYZ, which came from France. That grid system came after that. So, and that was more for the XY and the XYZ was more for surveying of the land, if you know what I mean. But the latitude and longitude, there's no way around it. Even according to UTM time, formerly Greenwich Mean Time, Australia only, between Newcastle, north of Sydney, and Perth, there is only 2 hours of correct local time. Yet across the same exact latitude north of the equator, across the same distance, with the exception of 108 miles, there is 3 hours of correct local time between South Carolina and Southern California. So there's no way around that. There's only one way that's possible for that to be reality, as it is, because it is reality. And that is because the latitude and longitude grid is a north-centric grid that where all the longitude lines diverge out like a spider web. The latitude lines go around it like a spider web. That's the only way that's possible.
I always lose track of what's in the pipeline and what's been done. Is this going to be time bandits? And has that been done? Or is that something that's still being worked on by Adam?
He's doing some updates. So I might have to do my part of that presentation a week before he does his second power, because he's in contact with I think that French sailor Hervé, and
that's all I
some
need.
other stuff going on.
This hasn't been done yet.
It was done before, but he's doing a better version. He's doing a better version because we split it up. Instead of me and him doing the same presentation together, I'm doing a presentation on my bit, and then he's doing a presentation. So my bit will be the flat proving, and his bit will be the destruction of the globe via time zones.
Okay, but there's more to it in terms of the way it's made up now, isn't it? In terms of the expanse of the presentation, it incorporates that little preamble that you just went through, does it not?
Yeah, I don't even know what Adam. I haven't even spoke to Adam what it is that he's bringing. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But he's been in contact with Hervé, as I said, the French sailor, and he's bringing more into it. That he's putting more meat on the bones for the globe debunking, just to show how ridiculous the whole thing is on a globe, especially from a sailor's point of view. Because it was Hervé that reminded me when I listened to his videos off of the Book Conspiracies channel. It was Hervé that gave me the reminder that there is only 2 hours across Australia and 3 hours across America, across the same latitude. It's the 32nd degree north and south latitude. There is, and I remember that years ago, but like a lot of things, they got pushed to the wayside. And I was like, yeah, that's what reminded me of it. That's why it was Hervé that reminded me of that thing. So it's really down to him, to be honest with you.
Well, that's going to be worth plugging and promoting when it's all polished up and ready to go. If you're a long-standing viewer and you want to know, right, okay, where's the next turning point? Where's the next really exciting thing that's going to be happening? That's it. In terms of you as an audience member expanding out your understanding of how the world's been mapped and plotted into a sphere and where that falls apart. Also, from Brian's perspective, how it's being done in respect to a flat plane, how it proves a flat Earth. And yeah, a lot of the systems that are in place for our global positioning system, for example, have come from flat planes, but a lot of our opponents will take those global models and infer that means we've got a global surface, which we simply can't have, especially when it comes to latitude. But yeah, I think that's something that people will enjoy watching when it comes out, and we'll have to promote it heavily when we've got a time of when that's going to be.
Well, let me just point out something. You know McToon and his 10,000 pound or US dollar challenge?
Do I? I
Well,
have told
yeah.
I have told McToon 88 times in my comments. I don't watch Toon's videos. He's obsessed with me, not the other way around. He's literally left hundreds of comments on this channel. Nevertheless, 88 times I have told him now that you, Toon, require for flat Earth to measure the angles in your challenge. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, you could always ask him to incorporate Polaris as part of his challenge. That's going to really ruin him. But the thing about it is that with his challenge, what he's doing is he's asking you to take on something that would start with a flat plane. The measurements would be flat plane. But then when you go to plot out all the coordinates, what you're going to get is the coordinates that are based off of a globe. Latitude and longitude positions that are based off of a globe. You're not going to get them based off of the flat plane because they're not. The almanacs these days are not dealing with. They're not dealing with. As far as I know, they're not dealing with the original latitude and longitude layout. Yes, they must use chronometers, and they must adhere to the fact that there's only 2 hours of correct local time across Australia, but 3 across America at the same distance. So there's all kinds of contradictions go on there. The time zones prove without a shadow of a doubt that the Earth is a flat plane. There's absolutely no way around it. Actually, and just so the audience knows, the ballers are always asking us, "Where's your flat out map? Where's your flat out map?" If I could get Rob Florham maybe to do it for me, I know exactly what needs to happen to create the best, most. I can't say it's going to be perfect, but it'll be the most accurate and best world map that was ever created that I'm aware of. I know exactly what has to be done. And all it takes is someone with a bit of CAD experience, because I can't do it myself. You know, because all it is just putting things in the right places.
As we're shouting out things, I might as well just do the shout out that I was going to do at the end of the show now. So if you're a member, tomorrow I'm going to be recording a Bonversation with John LeBon. So he invited me a few days back to join him in producing a show for his website. So these typically do not go out to the public for a couple of years. So he tends to keep them on his website. So I will honour that and do the same. I won't publish it to the public. But what we'll do while we're producing or making that show, if you will, for his website, I'll leave it out to members. So typically there's sort of, maybe half a dozen or a dozen people that might be interested in watching that, because it tends to be a bit more drawn out, let's just say, when you're making a show that won't be anything like what ends up being produced by John Le Bon and put onto his website. But if you're interested in watching that getting produced, then feel free to join as a member, or if you are a member, then stay tuned after tomorrow's show. So 5 p.m. UK is when I'll be sort of connecting up with him and chit-chatting for a bit, and then he'll tell me when we get started and all the rest of it. So there'll be lots of background stuff, a bit like a pre-show. But I'm happy to put it out to a limited audience of mine that are paying to see it, because I don't think that particularly infringes in JLB terms with him trying to entice people onto his website, especially if I'm promoting it also, or cross-promoting it, which is to say there will be the nice version of it, which will be produced by John Le Bon on his website after it's been done. I don't know how long he takes to actually put his conversations out on his website, but feel free to check out johnlebon.com, or I think it's actually jlb.com, to see what he's got on there. There's plenty of free material if you don't want to actually join the website. He does put plenty of stuff, like I say, a couple of years later after he's produced it originally, for free, so you can obviously entice people to join and see the new stuff, which I will be a part of. So I'll be producing that for members only tomorrow, in light of John Le Bon putting it in a nice format on his own website, and that will be going out to his members when he's produced it, and then maybe in 2 years or even longer time he might put it out to the public on either his own website or on YouTube, because he just entice people onto his site from YouTube and produce the odd YouTube video and live stream there as well. So if you've not heard of John Le Bon or JLB, then check him out, and check out his website. Hopefully he'll garner a few members to his website, as he solely supports himself via that particular means. So he doesn't have a commercialized YouTube channel. He only makes money off the back of the members on his website, which I think is extremely, number one, challenging to achieve. But having emigrated pretty much now from Australia to Bulgaria, based on the fact that he's built up enough of an audience base to want to subscribe to him on a long enough term basis to pay the bills with it. So in many ways, I'm very, very impressed with how he's managed to achieve that at all, from nothing, which is very, very impressive. So check out his website at the least, or if you're only willing to look at things on YouTube, he does have a YouTube channel as well. But as I say, if you're a member, check it out tomorrow. There won't be a big song and dance about my production, because it will just be, probably streamed live there and then, in all its glory. So there you go, if you're a member. Or if you want to watch that and you're not a member, please join as a member. It definitely helps me financially. And obviously that's the main purpose for me having any conversation with anybody ever. But given the fact that he will not be putting this out directly to the public, I want to obviously not do the same. I don't want to put these videos out to the public, so I'm happy to put it out to a dozen or so people on my members stream. Like I say, so John Le Bon's still got his exclusive material to put on his website. Anyway, join as a member if you haven't done so already, and if you are, check it out tomorrow. And check out JLB's website in the meantime. Should we do a bit more on this video before we round out the live stream in a few minutes' time, Brian?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
An advanced civilization that existed long before ours that had mastered the art of ocean navigation?
When archaeologists talk about seafaring humans, what do they date that to?
The great seafaring adventure that is accepted by archaeology is called the Polynesian expansion. And it's a...
So who's this guy? This is Graham Handcock, right?
Yes.
And who is he? An archaeologist?
Yeah, pretty famous archaeologist. If you go to Netflix, he has a very popular, very recent series, I think a 6-part documentary series about what he's claiming about history and how history is wrong, kind of thing.
A remarkable story, and that occurs roughly 3,000 to 3,500 years ago. And those Polynesians were amazing ocean navigators. They could cross distances of thousands of kilometers with pinpoint accuracy. I mean, it's not an accident that the Polynesians found Easter Island. Finding Easter Island is a really challenging project.
Okay, and they would have done it by measuring the stars and their angles off a flat Earth. That's how they did it.
That's
They'd
correct.
have to have latitude.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, longitude. Just saying they'd have to have longitude. They'd have to understand longitude in some way. They'd have to. They can't just use latitude. They have to understand longitude in some way.
Yeah. And with those angles measured off a flat Earth, you can navigate very accurately. Okay. For us, so far so good, right?
And you know what's funny? When we were introduced to the Polynesians these days, when I first went to Australia, people were telling me, be careful of the Maori guys, because they only stopped eating people, I think, 100 years beforehand or something like that. And the Tongans are dangerous too and all this. So it was all about how these people were just a load of, brutal cavemen. But yet they were able to very accurately, navigate the world via the stars a couple of thousand years ago. So something's happened, you know what I mean? What happened to all that? They can't be a group of cavemen and be able to do that.
Easter Island is 2,000 miles from the coast of South America. It's 2,000 miles from the nearest other island, which is Tahiti. It's just a little speck in the middle of the ocean, but the Polynesians found it and settled there and appear to have brought a reproductively viable population there and appear to have made voyages back and forth. But
and we just used to go there and nick stuff, the British, that is. So in the British Museum in London, they've got one of those, what would you call them? Those heads from Easter Island. I don't know if they've got a particular name. Anybody know the title of those?
I know the ones you're on about, yeah.
Well, they've just got they've got several of them. just stolen them, basically. They're now in the is it Natural History Museum? I think it is. But yeah, they're just at the bottom of a stairwell.
But I'd just like to say that what is going on here is they're pre-assuming an ice age and pre-assuming that these people found these places. Like there's a lot of pre-assumption goes on because it's based off of a lot of it is based off of an out of Africa type colloquial theory. This kind of evolution type theory.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Colloquial theory.
What you're saying is the way that certain historians have written the expansion of a particular empire would infer that certain lands, well, they were just discovered when we found them. No. In many instances, they still existed on other maps. It's just it wasn't an expansion of your kingdom that suddenly you're so glorious for finding. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, the history is written by the victors, and that often, in this instance, I think that's the point of this from Brian, is causes problems when you've got heliocentric rhetoric that doesn't incorporate itself well into the way that history's been written. And when you unfold a new map, meaning old map because it's from the past, but new to you map that doesn't comport with your history timeline, suddenly it's a quote-unquote problem. No, this is not a problem at all, because we still navigate flat. That's how it all still functions. That's how we've developed all of the predictive time. How did the guy put it earlier? He's like predicting the future. No, the cycles of the stars. That was all done flat. And it's not a problem until you incorporate a sphere belief into it that means that you have no facility to have these understandings prior to those understandings. Suddenly it's a problem that needs explaining. Like, no, it isn't. Only for you.
Yeah, they have a lot of mysteries that they can't figure out, and they won't figure them out until they accept that the Earth is not a globe. You know what I mean? When they accepted all this stuff, globe, evolution, all these things, they're all nonsense. When they accept all that, then they'll actually they have some hope of getting to the bottom of the mysteries. But until they do that, they'll be just mysteries. You know what I mean? That will never be solved.
That was 3,000 to 3,500 years ago. That.
Go on, whoever it was.
Graham Hancock. Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to add. I read his books and I've been following him a little. One of his main beliefs is that we are going to get hit by an asteroid. And he is really proving that the big flood is due to an asteroid that hit the Antarctica. No, not Antarctica, but the Arctic. So he's a huge glober, and he thinks like the pyramids are connected to the stars, and he finds it incredibly crazy that the guys then knew that we were on a ball and we were floating through space. So he has this firm belief system.
But he's a soil from the sky guy.
Oh, yes. And he's also not an archaeologist. He's a writer that follows archaeology, just to be clear.
Have you got gain control on your mic? take that as a no. Back off your mic a couple of inches, Gilly Pong.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry.
I was just asking if you had a gain control. I was just going to say turn your gain down a little bit. You're just overloading your mic a little bit. That was all. Nothing too important. Don't worry.
That was not 12,800 years ago. And this is where archaeology's adamant position that ocean voyaging was begun.
For nearly 50 years now, did you keep...
Adds my apologies.
By the Polynesians, and that there was no major ocean voyages before that, I think needs to be strongly questioned, and it needs to be strongly questioned in the light of this DNA evidence from the Amazon, rather than rejecting the evidence.
So, from what I'm gleaming from this, he's saying we need to strongly question it. Now, whether or not his motivation will be to strongly question it so we have a nice heliocentric solution, but he's still saying, you know, it doesn't match. He's raising the objection at the very least, is he not?
Yeah, he is, but he's one of these people. He raises a lot of objections, but he always comes to a globe answer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
of some kind. Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like I sometimes see us as filling that position where he's raising the objection so we can overcome it within the heliocentric rhetoric. We are potentially here so that we can raise objections, and the general populace, that's anti-flat earthers in this regard, the ones who respond, our respondents, if you will come up with the solutions. Now, he's playing both parts of that particular equation, isn't he? Ah, here's a problem. It doesn't fit with heliocentrism. Look, it doesn't fit. Let's make it fit with heliocentrism. In other words, there's always that skew towards, you know, this is a problem that needs solving. We wouldn't even agree with that in the first instance. But when he raises the problem, because it doesn't fit, at least now we are aware, because like I said earlier, up until this, I didn't know that there would be any problem with heliocentrism in terms of even the Mappa Mundi, which goes back much further and is flat. You just don't think about it, do you? Shout out to Vlad. Says, hold on, good show today. Thanks, Nathan and panel. And shout out to everyone in Discord and YouTube. Well, thank you for your super chat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vlad. Well, just to add to that, that guy, remember that guy that came on, or a couple of those guys that came on at that AMA on the politics server? They started having it saying, is your problem that nuclear weapons may not exist, and you know, all these kind of things, all these issues that they personally had that they wanted to project onto you. Well, he's a more popular and educated version of them. Well, he's like, these are problems. Yeah, for you, Graham, not for me. Do you know what I mean? You have a global problem, a heliocentric problem that doesn't fit with what you're finding. And so you want me to think of that as a problem when it's not. It's not my problem at all.
I've actually got that lined up if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Adobe Stock's multi-asset subscription
on my own video. Hold on. Rockets don't prove a sky vacuum, but you lent on them up until now and are telling me that they wouldn't exist because I'm saying that your sky vacuum, the rockets you think go to, doesn't exist. It can't exist. Gas fills space. It's a law of nature. Do I care what your concerns about military rockets are now? No, they are your concerns. Now that you have a painful, fundamental shift in your reality, you thought there was an area of volume that gas wasn't filling that rockets could go to. So the rockets go up in a vector upwards or outwards, depending on your ilk. And as they go up or out from the sphere Earth, they go through the yummy gas at high pressure that we're all breathing until some of the gas just hangs around at the Kármán line, stopping carrying on in its current vector. Yeah? No, that's not real. That's a violation of natural law that leaves you with no sky vacuum to believe in. Your concern about rockets is not mine. Hope that's clear. Don't project your pain onto me.
So then you don't believe in nuclear war then? That's the way...
Like, did I say that, Mr. I'm going to project my pain about nuclear war? Yeah.
There was another guy, too, I remember a while ago, that said that to you. So you don't believe in nuclear war?
Well, that's where the term share your pain comes from. Because where we get a lot of conspiratardia in terms of people saying, well, here's my explanation for what rockets would or wouldn't do in a sky vacuum. That is rooted in what he asked me. Well, that would mean that there's this, that, and the other issue with something I've lent on as a glow proof. Yeah? And I want to steer people well away from that moving forward. No, just understand how it's flat. Don't suddenly go, well, I used to think that it doesn't matter. Now you know that you've got a firm grounding in how the world is actually measured. There are certain things that, yeah, you may become aware of deception around you. And initially, that's probably quite scary. But don't worry, life goes on. You know what I mean? You don't suddenly have to go batting on the door of NASA with a pitchfork and a torch, demanding answers for their lies. But you might decide to turn your back on them. All right, well, I don't value the information from that source anymore because they're certified liars. There we go. So, you know, you'll just have a slight shift in terms of how you deal with information where previously you just sucked it up and accepted it. But it doesn't mean that you've suddenly got to pose those questions and fears and concerns onto the messenger who tells you Earth's measured flat. In this case, me. Well, you say rockets won't exist, don't you? No, I don't say that. No. You worry about it, not me. Anyway. That was called The Globe Pane of the Space Lie. Broken Men. And it's on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. Let him know about... No. Wait.
An attempt should be made to consider what that might mean.
Well, it's interesting because we know that the Egyptians had boats.
Yeah.
And so, if there were boats 4,500 years ago, why do we think that they didn't try them out in the ocean? That doesn't make any sense, especially if they existed 1,000 years prior, which is also possible.
Archaeologists wouldn't argue that the Egyptians had boats, but that is still within the framework of accepted history. It's
Again, accepted history, frameworks. Does this all sound familiar to anybody?
Yeah. Frameworks accepted, yeah. The Giza pyramid, I think, and the pyramids in general around Egypt, they are aligned with certain stars. I can't remember all the details, but my cousin, who trained as an underwater archaeologist, but he trained as a land archaeologist first, he was told that there were flooding a valley in Egypt back maybe back in the 80s or 90s or something. Maybe my timeline is wrong. But they moved this thing that was aligned to the sun, I think, at the December solstice or something like that. Kind of like in Newgrange in Ireland, where the sun shines in there on the December solstice that morning into that chamber every year without fail for thousands of years. It was a similar thing, and they moved it because they wanted to flood this valley, and they could never get it in the right position again to make the same thing happen. They were always a day late or a day early, no matter where they moved it, that they couldn't do anything with it. So that tells you that the Egyptians understood the sky. So if they understood the sky, then you can be sure that they were able to navigate.
It's the notion of a global navigating culture in the Ice Age that archaeologists can't swallow. It's a subject that I've kept on coming up against over a number of years. I think the best evidence for it is...
Evidence what? The Ice Age? Or for the navigation prior to your timeline? Which one's he offering evidence for, I wonder?
The second one.
The second one. The first one's just accepted as a presupposition. I see. Thank you for letting me know, Chocolate.
Ancient maps which show the world as it looked during the last Ice Age. We're talking about maps that were drawn roughly between the 1300s and the 1700s.
And when do you say that the Ice Age was? Before that a little bit? That sounds like a problem for you with your arbitrarily ascribed Ice Ages and a timeline of 65 million years. That all sounds like a very big problem. Especially when you're deriving these timelines from radial values that have been measured off a flat plane. That's definitely a massive problem for you. Doesn't work with your reification at all, does it? Go ahead, Brian, as it's your point.
How can these maps be pre-Ice Age? That's what he said, wasn't it? Pre-Ice Age?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So looks at it. Yeah. How can it be pre-Ice Age when they proved there was a globe in Greece 2,000 years ago? Do you know what I mean? This nonsense. The Greek Hipparchus and all these people, Eratosthenes, that's all 2,000 plus years ago. Pythagoras, he's 2,000 plus years ago. All these people, they're way back. Babylonians are way before them. So how did an Ice Age happen in between all that and now? And his globe still, you know what I mean? His proof of his globe is all this stuff from back in Alexandria. Well, it's not, it's a lot of rubbish, but it's all made up stuff. But the point is that they claim about stuff. They claim, we've known it's the globe for 2,500 years. Well, the Ice Age would have kind of ended that. You know what I mean? You'd have to start from scratch again, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's like we've known the Earth is a globe for 2,000 years, but like a few things 100 years ago are kind of messing us up. They're not up to snuff.
In other words, in relatively recent history. However, these maps were largely based on much older source maps, which they copied. And we can say that for sure, because one of the famous maps is the Piri Reis map, which was created by a Turkish admiral called Piri Reis in the year 1513. Actually, only a corner of his map has survived.
You say only a corner?
Yeah, it's only a portion of his map that we actually get to see. There was a bigger map, supposedly.
I see. It's hard to get a scale on how big they've got, but I would imagine this is probably 6 or 8 foot wide when it's all 4 pieces, right? No,
don't know.
No, I don't either.
It was originally a world map. We now just have a bit that shows the east coast of South America and North America and the west coast of Africa. Piri Reis writes in that map that it is in his own handwriting that he based it on more than 100 older source maps, some of which had come from the Library of Alexandria. In other words,
is he now going to express the problem within a heliocentric timeline, or just move on?
It's that maps had been, when the Library of Alexandria had been destroyed in the 4th century AD or whenever it was, some of its contents had been rescued and brought to Constantinople, which became the Turkish capital. And Piri Reis had access to those maps, and he incorporated information from those maps on his maps.
I started this journey on my own.
Yeah, what he's basically saying is they knew about longitude before 1700. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Navigational information. And this is one of a whole category of maps which are extremely hard to explain. All of them based on older source maps, now lost.
Just hard to explain because, I mean, what we've got up on screen now, this looks like a Mercator, is it not? Can you see the live stream, Brian?
I can't, Nathan. I'm just on the meet, so I can't see it.
No worries.
All of them incorporating extremely precise relative longitudes and latitudes. Latitude is not that difficult a technological feat, but longitude is a difficult technological feat.
Right, longitude is only possible on, what, a flat Earth or a globe Earth? Latitude.
It's what you measure.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
It's not a problem on a globe Earth, it's a problem.
Hold on, let's not steal his thunder. Both of us want blood. Go ahead, Brian. This is the whole point of we're getting to the major point of your video now, right? This is why you've suggested this. Go ahead.
That's a good portion of it. Like, that's what you measure. When you're measuring directly from north to south, you're measuring longitude. Right? You're measuring longitude from north to south. There's 360 longitude lines. You're measuring them when you're measuring the angle to Polaris. Right? You're not just getting your latitude. The distances, that 69.04 horizontal miles per degree, which would have been in a different unit of measurement at one time, still horizontal. That is, all those are giving you a length of a longitude line. You know what I mean? This thing about, well, you just use Polaris there, latitude. No, you don't. You're not. You're measuring a longitude line. You're measuring along the length of a longitude line when you're going directly from north to south. You know, you're measuring the length of a longitude line. Now, the 24-hour divide that happened was based off of a local noon, not a solar noon. But they knew about this way before. It comes back to, you know what it comes back to, Nathan? Kepler, right, needed the original sun cycle he needed to know that, which he got from astrology, the same with Tycho Brahe, right? They needed to know this or Kepler needed to know it to amalgamate it with the Copernican solar system model, right? So longitude needed to exist for that to happen. You know what I mean? It's like, it's total nonsense. There's no way that longitude didn't exist. It's shown here. Well, he's agreeing that it did exist. But now he's going to go on to try and explain how it's very difficult to understand how longitude could have existed, because longitude is a big drama for us, because we didn't know about longitude till we got chronometers. No, people did know about longitude. It's just our society obviously had an issue with it. But people of the past, they didn't have any problem with it.
Longitude involves a chronometer. It involves knowing the time at the place you began your voyage and the local noon as well, and calculating the difference between them. You need a chronometer that will keep accurate time at sea with the motions of a ship. And it's just a plain fact that our civilization did not invent such a chronometer until the late 18th century. Before that, we didn't know what longitude we were at, and ships were constantly sailing unexpectedly into coastlines that they thought were hundreds of miles further away. So that
you notice the dogged assurance that his rhetoric with his timeline is the affirmative position that can be stated so confidently, in spite of everything that he's just led up to in this instance contradicting that. Yeah, that is the firm position, all based on belief, and everything that contradicts that comes prior is the problem, in quotes, right, Brian?
Yes, exactly, Nathan. The problem is all the things that don't fit with what is officially accepted and so must be true. Yeah, that's what he's saying, isn't it?
The discovery of the technique to do longitude was a major civilizational advance. Its presence in maps based on much older source maps that actually show the world as it looks during the last ice age suggests that somebody during the last ice age was mapping the world and had mastered the technique of calculating longitude. Classic example of these maps, and I make
So another flat representation of the world, so it can work with flat measurements of angles to stars to develop this flat grid that existed pre-timeline for you, which you're still describing as maps made in the Ice Age. Why? Well, because that's your timeline, isn't it? That's the only reason.
Well, to use longitude correctly, you have to treat the Earth as flat.
Yeah.
Because even Hervé, the French sailor who was on the Taboo Conspiracies channel, even he was pointing out, as I said earlier, that there's only 2 hours of correct local time across Australia. And he had to know that, and that had to be a fact when he was sailing. Now, on a globe, there's 3 hours of local time between, because there's 45, I think it's 45 degrees of latitude across Australia on a globe projection. But in reality, Australia sits within, not across, but within 30 degrees of latitude. So if you're sailing and you're using a chronometer, you have to address the Earth as flat, because otherwise Australia is going to have more than 2. It's either Australia has more than 2 hours of correct local time, and chronometers are wrong and a waste of time, or chronometers are right and Australia only has 2 hours of correct local time across its 32nd latitude. It's either one or the other. Do chronometers work? Yes. Does Australia have only 2 hours of correct local time across the 32nd degree latitude south? Yes. So can the Earth be a globe? No. It's that simple.
Make a point of this is what's called the Pinkerton world map, which was drawn in the year 1818, and it was based on the latest navigational information at that time. I reproduced that map in the book. What's missing from the map, entirely missing, is Antarctica. There's just a hole at the bottom of the world. There's nothing there. The reason that Antarctica is not there
is an antipodal assumption at the bottom of the world. I mean, to me, it looked like a South Pole-centric projection. Now, that projection may have, in the 1800s, most likely come from a globe projection that was taken by wrapping around said sphere from elevation angle measurements to Polaris. But when you're developing a system for the South that you haven't quite figured out yet, you end up with all sorts of different variations. However, this particular iteration has got him describing it as an antipodal assumption. Yeah? That's how he phrased it.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut in on you. 1 second, Nathan. Yeah, he went straight to a map from 1818. Well, that's a long time after the Piri-Reis map. Wouldn't you think he should be focusing on the Piri-Reis map and maps Any map, any older map, or any evidence of where those maps came from or where they got their information from. Like this thing about the South Pole, there's nothing there. It's just a black hole kind of thing. It's like, and I can look at that map. I can't see it now, but if I looked at that map, I could tell off the time zones whether or not it was a correct world map. You know what I mean? Whether it was correct or incorrect. It's nonsense. It's like when Google Earth for years, when you want to see the Arctic. At one time, the Arctic was just a black hole on Google Earth. Then it was water. Then it was ice. Then it was water again. Then it was a black hole again. Then it was water again. Then it was ice again. Do you know what I mean? They don't know what to put in there because they're not telling you what it really is. Whatever it is, who cares? Who cares?
That our civilization hadn't discovered Antarctica in 1818.
Oh.
So they couldn't authentically put it on a map in 1818. Actually, we discovered...
Hear the bias, man. It's outrageous. Well, that's us, whoever's this kingdom that's being described, didn't know about it, therefore it couldn't have existed. That's the logic. Hold on a second. Is that denying the antecedent?
Yes, maybe so.
Boom! I've never spotted one before. There's never been one.
Discovered it in 1819, and that's when it starts appearing on modern maps. The problem is that Antarctica appears repeatedly on these much older maps, and it appears in the right place, and a bit bigger than it is today, but very much as it looked during the last ice age. So what all of this suggests to me is that the world was mapped and explored by a global seafaring culture with a level of technology that was at least equivalent to ours at the end of the 18th century during the ice age.
Wasn't there also a map of Greenland?
It gets confusing when you juxtapose
he said the
it with...
problem is...
Yeah, go ahead,
Whose
Chocolate.
problem is it again?
The globe's problem.
Oh, okay.
Can I point out something? He said we didn't discover Antarctica until 1819. Now, that would mean he's talking about below, you're talking 70 degrees, 80 degrees south. Yeah, well, not below, but past there, I should say. Just to turn a phrase from years of saying it the wrong way. But in 18, I'm looking at it right now, the Gleason's map, 1892, I think what year did that come out? But it came out along November 15th, 1892, patent allowed, right? Now, according to Gleason, right, and his map is based off of it's a sun calculator, basically, right? According to him, on the longest day of the year, south of the equator, the sunlight never gets further than 80 degrees south. Now, so how could they discover Antarctica if Antarctica is 80 degrees south and further, more or less? How can they discover all this Antarctica place if, according to Gleason, there's no light? If you go by what he's saying. I'm not saying there is or isn't, but I'm saying there's no light there, according to Gleason. Even on the longest day of the year south of the equator. So it's just a lot of pre-assumption and nonsense. Graham Handcock, you're just coming up with nonsense because you don't know. You just can't accept it's not a globe, Graham.
Greenland that showed it underneath the ice?
Yes, there are. And another intriguing thing, I mentioned the Piri Reis map just now. Shown on the Piri Reis map, lying off the east coast of North America, is a large island with a row of megaliths, like a road of megaliths, running up the middle of it. That island is in the exact place of the Grand Bahama Banks. So this island...
What is he saying? It's just saying that it's very accurate at this point, though, isn't he? That's what he's really doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is sitting there off the southeast coast of North America.
Look at the way they used to draw things back then, too.
And what you see running down the middle of it is this road-like feature of megaliths. I'll point them out again.
I see, right there, yeah.
These here. These here. Now, the thing is, there was a long period of my life when I did a lot of scuba diving, and I was looking at underwater structures, and one of the
Okay, now this is pretty cool, you've got to admit, right?
sites I dived on was the Bimini Road, which is in the Grand Bahama Banks. And the Bimini Road is exactly where that island is. And here's the issue. I don't care whether the Bimini Road is natural or man-made. For me, the mystery is that it is shown above water on that map. And the last time it was above water was thousands and thousands of years ago.
Having it on the map. Go on, Brian.
No, you go first, Nathan.
Well, no, you go ahead.
Well, my point, what I was going to say is I don't trust any of these older maps, to be totally honest with you, because even I've thought about this before with the Piri Reis map and others. It's like we're told this map came from a certain place at a certain time, blah, 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 blah. But we don't know if these maps were not made back when they said. We don't know if they're more recent and being claimed to be there from the past, like supporting a globe in some way. Do you know what I mean? Because everything he's talking about there is about like the Bimini Road back when that was above the water level as opposed to below it. What it is now, you have to dive to see it. You can't see it above the water. Do you know what I mean? So I don't even know how true the Piri Reis story is or any of the rest of it. But it is interesting that there's problems turning up for these people.
This is the map on Monday. It's on screen now. This is the one hanging up in Hereford Cathedral.
So for me, this is all evidence that we shouldn't dismiss the possibility that our ancestors had achieved a level of technology where...
Here we go. Now let's not discount the nonsense that's been proposed thus far to make our timeline work, because that's what he's about to say, or it's just said it, in fact, right? Let's not discount the fact that our, technologically advanced ancestors within our timeline, and I'm just waiting for him to say came from outer space or something stupid like that.
They could explore and map the world's oceans. We shouldn't dismiss that. And the whole...
Dismiss what? They did. You've got the maps to show it. What the hell? What's this guy's malfunction? Am I missing something? Sorry, what are we not dismissing? The very facts that you've got at your fingertips? They just disagree with your timeline. So what? Well, we shouldn't dismiss them. Yeah. You'd be, it'd be an outrage if you did. Yeah?
Yep.
The effort of archaeology has been to dismiss the significance of the Bimini Road.
How would they?
Oh, I see. So you're going to juxtapose that with our predecessors in my field just discounted this evidence because they had no correlation with something we found underwater. Therefore, it was just dismissed by them. But I'm not going to dismiss this glaring contradiction in timeline. Maps that we won't be dismissing. No. Shifting these blame goalposts over to something that has no relevance. There's no issue with the actual evidence that you can show to be true. Those facts in terms of the timeline and when those maps were made and can be shown to be made by way of a historical standard just doesn't tie up with your timeline. Oh, I'm not going to discount them. Yeah, you better not. They just discredit your timeline that you're still incorporating into it while you're saying you won't be discounting them. What, and they're disagreements with your timeline? You're not stating that, are you?
They dismiss that.
Well, they say
See,
it's just
to me.
They say it's totally natural. I can tell you, I absolutely do not think it's natural.
And now focus on the burden, comparative shift with the Bimini Road or whatever he's calling this. So he's not confronting the timeline issues within the narrative. It's let's discuss the former people who discounted evidence and how that compares and stacks up when we are going to critique anything here. It's going to be the comparison I drew that's going to get the critique.
I think it's a man-made structure, but the argument is that it's a kind of beach rock that...
No. The argument, you see, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a bit slow, let's just say not quite sharp enough, it's about why these maps don't fit in with this timeline. Notice how it seems that he's answering a question that addresses problems that, there wasn't really a focus on the Bimini Road. That wasn't what this discussion was about, was it? But yet he's going to address those problems right now with the Bimini Road, right? So all's fair at the end of this. Everything's been squared up. He's addressed the problems with the comparison that he drew to actual problems that don't fit in with his timeline. That aren't problems. There's just older maps. That still work with the stars on a flat Earth? Yeah, they do. All of them do, without exception.
Forms in these blocky formations.
Does it? Is that
yes, beach rock does form in blocky formations, but here I believe...
Who cares? Sorry, why do I care suddenly about the Bimini Road and the rock formations that are forming on it underneath the water? Did anybody have this in mind while we were discussing the maps and the modelling of a world that's flat and angles to stars? Suddenly we were worrying about rock formations underwater. Well, I wonder why that happened. Oh, well, I'm not that sharp. I'll just breeze past this.
I believe that the beach rock has been used as a construction material. But, I repeat, the key issue is not whether the Bimini Road is man-made or not.
It's about these maps and that.
The key issue is that it features on a map above water.
Not the timeline with the maps, but the Bimini Road being above water. That's the main problem. He's a magician. It stinks of Tyson-like magicianry, doesn't it?
Yes. I never trusted the guy. Let's focus on this one small part that takes away from the big problem we have that we've been claiming for a long time, that nobody knew what longitude was prior to the 1700s. Well, actually prior to the 1800s, because before the chronometer. And but here is longitude on maps that are much older than that. Anyway, the Bimini Road. Let's focus on that.
Precisely. Okay, so as always, in this case, it's a videographer who has responded to Joe Rogan and Graham Handcock, but that videographer's name is Brain Station. So I'm putting a link to the video as it was their adaptation of that particular interview that we were critiquing in that instance. So please let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and I'll explain the call to action while hopefully some of the live stream audience that are actually watching right now do go and click on that link and say to the videographer at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, with a view to the videographer in this case, Brain Station, doing the same for us, which is to say we receive absolutely no algorithmic love whatsoever. Being flat earthers, we are without question suppressed, censored. Now it's been in doublespeak 1984 style rephrased to promotion of preferred content. That's a fancy doublespeak way of saying censorship, which is what we suffer here. Ultimately speaking, if you want to look at it as, well, we just promote all the other stuff way, way above you. Yes, that's just the same way of saying we suppress you. Anyway, hopefully this videographer, if they were to see links to this going by, because people are letting them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, he'd do the courtesy of putting a link to my video if he was to make a response, which is the main reason we do this. Not just to build you up in the algorithmic love, Brain Station, or anybody else we do these link call-outs and get people to go and comment on your video, helping you along in the algorithm. I can waffle like this for at least 2 or 3 minutes while people actually do my call to action. Go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'll do another little shout out. Hopefully a few people will join as members as a result of a members only stream going out, in light of the fact that John LeBon does not release his videos to the public for at least a couple of years. He publishes them on his site. Ergo, I won't be releasing that particular video when I make it to the public. I'll just keep it as members only for myself also. So if you do want to watch that being produced, which is a conversation for the JLB.com website, which I suggest you also check out, or indeed the John LeBon /JLB YouTube channel, then do that as well. And maybe let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. But yeah, join as a member if you want to take part in that tomorrow. I'm going to be doing it at 5 PM UK time after the live stream finishes and the after show has finished recording. So obviously I'll still be set up to do that chat with John LeBon. So if you want to listen along, then you'll have to be a member to do so, like I say, so it doesn't infringe on him hacking it up, making a nice production and putting it out on his website for his members. Any other call to actions anybody wants to do before I round out this live stream? Brian, anybody?
Could somebody get in contact with me if Rob Dorn is with somebody who's got good CAD experience? Because I need them to make the flat earth map. Thank you.
Okie dokie. Well, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who did join as members. If you did, smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit me up on the coffee link below the video and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!